Hi, everyone. I'm Mariquita Solis, and I'm here with Dr. Angela Crawford today. And I'm excited that you're joining us from Sadness to Serenity, Cultivating Vegan Peace, Part 2. We had a conversation last week on this topic, and we want
two
to
weeks
revisit.
ago.
Oh, 2 weeks ago. You're right. 2 weeks ago. Wow, time flies. Right. It's up on the YouTube. Thanks, Angela. That's why Angela's here to keep me in line. So anyway, we are here today, and I'm a vegan empowerment coach. Harmonic Earth Healer is a little bit about myself. And Angela, why don't you tell the viewers? Welcome, and thanks for joining me here. I had someone reach out to me and say, "What time is Angela going to be on?"
Oh, that's great. Well, we will be on. We are on now. It's 11:15, a little after. Um, I'm Angela Crawford. I'm a psychologist. For many years, I was a psychotherapist. Now, author and teacher um, with a forthcoming book, The Vegan Transformation: A Journey to Heal Yourself and the World. And just really passionate about us discovering how we can thrive on our vegan journey, because as we thrive, we draw others along with us to explore, the compassionate way of living that we've embraced. So excited to be here with you, Mariquita. And I look forward to our conversations, because sometimes when life is stressful, it's just really helpful to have like-hearted friends to connect with.
Yes, I truly believe that. So, all right, y'all. I think let us know where you're joining from. And if you have any questions or comments, we'd love to see them in the chat. And please give StreamYard permission to use your name. So, I'd just like to invite you to join me in a little centering exercise if you feel like it. If you feel like closing your eyes and just taking some deep breaths, breathing in this beautiful air, a sign of love for us, given to us by Mother Earth, and just breathing this beautiful air down into our legs, down into our feet, connecting with all of life, this expansive energy, and feeling the love flow up into every cell of our body, and letting go of anything that might be holding us back now. Just putting that to one side with compassion and kindness, and feeling our wisdom and strength, and bringing in those parts of ourselves into this circle now. And just feel that radiating glow of love, strength, and compassion towards ourselves and all of life as we stand together in this moment. Strong, courageous, loving, and compassionate. Compassion for all living beings in this moment, including ourselves. Just breathing this strength in, holding it in our hearts always. Just saying, yes, and so it is, and so it shall be.
Thank you. And just even starting that way, it's such a powerful reminder for us all to remember that we need to take time in our day to ground ourselves, so that we come forward from, our most grounded, empowered self, which isn't always easy. So it's always a daily recharging, and maybe even a moment by moment recharging that we need to do. So thank you. We thought we would share some of the insightful comments that we got in response to our last live stream that we had a couple weeks ago, where we talked about, Mariquita and I each shared some of the ways that we navigate sadness, anxiety, and stress on our vegan journey. And then we talked about some of the core tools we use to move through those emotions and that we guide others with, and things that we've learned that are helpful. And there was feedback from some of the group members about things that they do. And so we wanted to share some of that today, and also just, continue to share new ways that you can ground and support yourself through whatever ups and downs you might be experiencing as as a vegan, wanting compassion and peace for all beings, in a world that doesn't yet embrace that, at least not, doesn't seem like a lot of it doesn't. But of course, it's there, and that's sometimes the kind of thing we need to reconnect with, that movement that we're part of. So before we dive into some of the ways that people have suggested and given some insights on, and some of our own insights, just to kind of acknowledge that this is a hard time for many of us. As vegans, we often do feel the sadness and distress of witnessing the suffering of animals, and then we witness this trauma to the earth that's often happening, and then there's other stressors and change and happening in our world right now that many of us are feeling. So I know that I myself wrestle with sometimes emotional ups and downs, and this seems to be an especially turbulent time. So I can acknowledge it and feel it. And I wonder, Mariquita, you want to say anything about how you're doing during this time, just emotionally?
I'm doing my best to stay grounded. I feel like there's a lot of sadness in the world. I feel a lot of energy of that's a little disruptive, and so it has been a struggle for me to be aware of who I am at a deep level, and not to be consumed by the outward energies that are around me. So I
Yeah.
mean, it's the discovery, it's the journey of how to
Yeah.
navigate.
And that's a beautiful way to name it, because I think, as many of us that care about animals have strong empathy, and so we can feel a lot of the stuff in the world, and it can be hard sometimes, especially when there is a lot going on. And so I want to shift to, okay, well, how do we navigate this? And we might each have different experiences of this. Before we get into that, I want to say hi to Ellen, who's joined us. Yay. Hi, Ellen. So
Thanks
we're
for joining us.
glad to have you here. And one of the comments that we received from someone who has a lot of knowledge in this area is Angela Fischetti shared with us how powerful exercise and movement is for helping us move through emotions. So I think that's the first strategy that I want to name, from some of the feedback we got. And, I think I so resonate with her. Angela's expertise is in helping especially older adults embrace exercise and purposeful movement, so that they can stay active and empowered even as we age. So this is obviously an area of passion and expertise for her, but for all of us, this is an important message, because when feelings are coming into us, we can kind of drown in them if we don't have a way to move them through us. And definitely, you might have experienced this, and research supports it. When you move, like whether it be walking, jogging, yoga, rebounding, strength training, having a regular routine of movement and exercise helps us to move feelings through us, so we're not just stuck in them, and it also empowers us, because I've become really committed to strength training, I would say, over the last, off and on for the last 20 years, but then I recommitted again about 5 years ago as I was aging and realizing that I could have bone loss if I didn't really prioritize it. And like, the way it makes me feel, I always feel better after I exercise. Like, sometimes I resist it, and then once I do, like, some of what I was feeling has moved through me, and I'm not drowning in it anymore. I don't know for you, if you find any benefits like that too, Mariquita, through some types of movement or exercise.
I know sometimes I'll feel tired and I'll get up and go for a walk, and I really feel invigorated after the walk. I think,
Yes.
yeah, because I mean, it makes sense. I'm out there with the trees, and they're alive, and they're giving me their energy, their peaceful energy, and then just that breath of getting out of what I was doing and shifting into a different environment it really is a life force.
Yeah. So you're talking about also the added benefit of nature being part of it, which can make it even more powerful, and in addition to that, so you're taking in the nature, but even whether you're doing it inside or outside, there's the blood flow that's bringing blood flow to your brain and your whole nervous system. It's shifting your neurotransmitters, so in ways that we can't even see, like just the act of exercising helps our nervous system handle feelings better. And I know I certainly found that when I was previously working as a therapist, like exercise is one of the best antidotes to depression. They find it's as powerful as an antidepressant. So it's certainly there's a physiological change, but then when you add in nature on top of it, like you're probably magnifying it, even more so because you're bringing in that added energy. So I invite, those of you listening to think about like how does movement and exercise affect your coping? And is that something you need to be more intentional about including in your life to nurture you, strengthen you, and help you move through the feelings? And this isn't again avoiding feelings. It's actually, you can be acknowledging them, but also letting movement move them through you to where it's a more powerful way of working with your feelings.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, you just reminded me of how much I used to I used to run. Um,
mm,
and I would get that runner's high 30 minutes a day, and it was incredible. I mean, being again, this was outside, but nevertheless, even if I'm, moving my body and just getting that, like you're saying, the blood flowing, it is causing the endorphins, to be released, the feel good endorphins.
yeah. Yeah, so definitely just kind of think about how you can fit that in your life and, strengthen what you're already doing with it and, find what you're willing and able to do because like you have to find the form of movement and exercise that you're willing and love doing, so that you're going to be more consistent with it, versus like what someone tells you to do that maybe you hate, find the version you love, if it's playing tennis, if it's, you know, running on the beach, if it's whatever it might be, if it's yoga, Pilates, walking in nature, find the ways that you can do this that will, keep you motivated. So, and again, as we're talking, those of you that listen, whether now or later to the recording, please share in the chat or comments, you know, how you draw on some of these different strategies to help you through the tough emotions you might experience and to just strengthen you emotionally in general. Well, let me go on to another comment. One of our group members and viewers mentioned that, a couple things. One is that sometimes we need to find peace in just knowing we're doing what we can. Sometimes we take in everything and we feel overwhelmed and helpless that we can't stop all the suffering right today, and that we can't make things change right away. And so we get caught up in, sometimes what we can't do and, get overwhelmed. And just this reminder of finding peace, like in my choices today, I'm doing all I can to not contribute to that suffering through what I eat, through what I don't eat, through what I purchase or don't purchase, through what I do or don't do. Finding that peace that even just in being vegan, you're doing so much to lessen suffering, and that just honoring what you do to show up, for the things you believe in and celebrate the good, not only that you're doing, but others are doing, because we're each just a part of the puzzle. None of us are the whole answer. I don't know for you, Mariquita, like how do you navigate that, the finding peace just in what you're able to do versus, feeling overwhelmed by what you can't.
Well, I've had to come to realize that I'm only responsible for myself, and I'm not responsible for anyone else. I mean, sometimes I think, wow, wouldn't it be great if I was responsible for everyone else and control everyone else? But actually, when I stop to think about it, I think, no, that would not be something that I would want to take on. My being responsible for everyone else's, actions, and and I have to just center myself in, and celebrate what I am doing. I have to focus on the good that I have done, and like you said, Angela,
Yes.
and acknowledge it. A lot of times, I used to not acknowledge it. It was never enough. So, I mean, moving out of that, never enough to, I acknowledge myself for actually being a very good champion for animals and the environment.
Yeah. 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 I think what you're saying is so true. Like, we cause ourselves a lot of pain by focusing on what's not in our control versus acting on and honoring what we do have control over, which is our own choices, feelings, actions. And so being able to celebrate and honor that. And we can still feel sadness sometimes about the things happening that we don't have control over, and yet knowing there can be peace in doing what we can and being part of something bigger.
Right.
Um,
I love what you said there too. And I have to keep reminding myself, when you say that we feel sadness instead of that we are sadness, right?
mm,
Not acknowledging the difference between the feeling. We are not the feeling, we have a
yeah,
lot of feelings, but to know that we're not encompassed by that.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, and going back to the topic of the exercise for a moment, one of our comments here, is recognizing how exercise also helps with disease and cancer prevention. I think, yeah, that's a good point that, many of us might have at one time looked at exercise as just a tool for managing weight or something, rather than realizing it's like our life energy. You know, you don't move it, you lose it. And movement, does help disease and cancer prevention. And I know from my work as a psychologist, it also helps our mental health. There's research that shows that. So yeah, so we've got, the power of movement and exercise for our physical and emotional well-being. We've got finding peace and knowing you're doing what you can. And um, you just named also separating out our feelings where we can feel our feelings without being our feelings, that there's stuff that moves through us and rather than defining us.
Right. And what you said earlier about being compassionate to our feelings.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. Honoring them, having compassion for them, that they're valid, that our feelings actually serve a purpose. They're trying to let us know things that matter to us deeply. Um, One teacher, spiritual teacher that I've been finding very helpful to listen to her meditations right now is Tara Brach. She's a psychologist and a Buddhist kind of meditation teacher. Um, and she, if you go to tarabrach.com, she has, a podcast on navigating your emotions as well as different meditations. And they're really about kind of what you and I are just talking about now of recognizing our feelings as feelings, having compassion for them, grounding ourselves in greater peace and letting things move through us rather than, being overwhelmed, I guess, or taken away, from our true self. Um, so, so yeah, like having different teachers and tools that help us. Another comment was that sometimes we need to limit our exposure to some distressing things. And I think there's a truth to that. Like, there's always this balance. Like, I've heard people say, well, I need to know what's going on. And we do, our, willingness to witness, like, for example, what happens to animals has led us to make a change that we hope will ultimately help move towards more compassion and less harm to sentient beings. And certainly our choices are lessening the harm. So it's like we have to be aware to some degree of that and other things that happen in our world. And yet, I definitely don't think our nervous systems were made to have as much exposure as we do through the news and social media. Like, it just, especially if you are empathic, it can definitely overwhelm you. So sort of, I think it may be about knowing your limits and maybe, I don't know, making an agreement to yourself to expose yourself to as much good and uplifting stuff as you do negative or more. It's funny, like in a relationship, this is a little bit off topic, but it kind of relates, I think. They find that in a relationship, for it to be healthy, there has to be like, I forget what the proportion is, but like at least double, if not more, positive comments over negative comments. It might even be more like one negative comment for every 5 positive comments. Because otherwise the relationship deteriorates with negativity and fighting and all of that. So we can handle like one negative comment for every 5 positives, but like if it becomes more than that, it deteriorates. I think the same could be true for our nervous system with like taking in the painful stuff of life and the news, especially if you are very sensitive. So maybe this is just something I'm proposing and just thinking about now is maybe we can challenge ourselves to expose ourselves to like 5 positive videos or 5 positive messages for every one negative one we might witness in a day, because we need that balance and the news isn't going to give it to us. And,
Right. That is very true.
like connecting with where there's true power and love and goodness.
Yes. And yesterday I felt like probably about 2 or 3 o'clock, I just said, okay, that's it. I'm just overwhelmed. And I put on Netflix. And so I hear the thing about like trying to escape and, escape versus something else, but I did, I put it on and watch and I did escape. so so I don't know what to say. I mean, those are just some thoughts that go in my mind. I mean, when is it escape? When is escape a good escape, and when is it not good escape?
Did it shift your vibration, your energy?
Well, I think it just allowed me to not be focused on the negative, the things that were causing me stress. It was able, and actually it was kind of a thriller. So I was kind of edge on my seat, which I really kind of like.
So it sort of, in this case, was a distraction, but it also got you out of whatever energy you were in that wasn't working so well for you.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. And, we need things like that. So it's like we need fun. We need lightness. We need peace, so it's like, I think we have to seek those things out. And sometimes we might need distractions and escapes. Again, if that's all you were doing, that might be a problem, right? But that's not all you're doing. It's sort of like, I think it's about balance.
That is true. And you said something very important that a lot of us forget, I think, including myself, is fun and laughing. Like you're saying, if we're watching 5 positive, fun things, then it balances out. It's so being aware of how much fun do we have and how much do we laugh.
Yeah, definitely. So maybe this is like an invitation to you to think about, your balance with what you watch and yes, being aware and bringing compassion to the suffering, and at the same time having compassion for you as a limited human being, with a nervous system that also needs nurturing. And I think, by remembering the positives we want to create in our lives and in the world, we can make choices, I guess, that help us connect with that more so we can bring it forward. Because I do believe we have to be the peace and love we want to see in the world in order to help create it. It doesn't mean we're going to be perfect at that all the time, or that we're not going to have those tough feelings. We need those tools to work through them. And at the same time, we want to nurture what we want to create and not only feed like the hurt or the sadness, So it's like this delicate balance. And I guess that brings us to the final part of what you and I wanted to talk about today, is each of us sharing a practice that sometimes we draw on to help us through some of the tough feelings that come up. So I'll go ahead and share first and then let you share. Does that sound okay? Okay. One thing that I draw on is, building on what I was just speaking to, is that we want to focus on the energy and the world that we want to create, and not just get caught up in what we fear or what we don't like. Certainly we're going to have those moments and we're going to have those feelings about the things that concern us. And we need to acknowledge those and realize that those are just a starting point to move us towards actually, well, what is it we want to create? and being able to each day intentionally focus on that. So having like grounding practices, like maybe how you start your day, where you might do things like breathing practices, meditation, purposeful movement, exercise, yoga, just things that first kind of ground you so that you're connected with more of that core self. Might be prayer, just drawing on those kinds of practices that help you feel connected with the you, that when you do feel empowered, the you when you maybe felt a higher power, or when you felt connected to nature. Why do we even care about any of this? Because we love nature and we love animals, and we care about having a beautiful, healthy, loving planet. So connect with that first. And then from there, once you've connected with that grounded you that can feel this larger connection, then, just have either a vision or a phrase that represents the world you want to create. For me, it's wanting a place of compassion, peace, a place where we nurture the earth and we are kind to one another and kind to all beings, and discover solutions that let us all live together in greater harmony, and where all beings can flourish. And I don't know exactly how that would happen. I don't have to know that, but I just know that that's what I stand for. You know, a world where, all can flourish and we care for one another. And so, sorry, need a little sip there. Being able to picture that, and just even holding it for a minute or two as you start your day, it's just a reminder of what you're showing up for, what you're holding, what you're moving towards, and can kind of help you navigate those ups and downs that we're likely to face as we go through our day. And so I invite you to each think about your own vision for the world you want to see and that you're standing for. And I want to invite Mariquita to share about a practice that she uses.
Well, I love that, what you said, Angela, and really for grounding. I mean, starting being mindful about where you're creating from, getting into that space of very grounded energy with a higher power. So that's very important. So last night I was struggling. I woke up and I must have had some disturbing dreams. Sometimes I do, and I wake up and I feel afraid, and I was laying there and I just felt this fear, and I put on there's some channels that have like Sanskrit mantras songs, and I really love them, and I listened to those. I put one of them on and I started to really feel myself kind of losing that heaviness of myself, and I intentionally thought, I want to call in this light of this divinity that's surrounding me, this beautiful light that loves me so much. Now, whether people call it God or whatever they call it, for me, I don't know. I don't know what to call this amazing thing, that's just divinity and beauty and love. But to really, I laid there quietly listening to that beautiful singing mantra and connected to that energy, and I felt so at peace. Now, I it, I shifted out of it a little bit, and the fear was coming back, and so I had to be cognizant and kind to myself, and realize that I could just recognize that I see that fear coming back, but let me shift back to this divinity, this feeling of divinity that is surrounding me, this energy of divinity, and so by doing so, I was able to get back to sleep in peace, and had a nice sleep for a few more hours. So, but it's something definitely I have to be mindful of, because if I'm not mindful, I'll be caught in that trap of fear and I won't get any sleep.
Yeah. Was this a meditation you found online, or where did you find it?
Oh, I found it online. A friend of mine introduced me to this beautiful Sanskrit songs, meditation. It's meditative chants, like.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, I think finding meditations like that help us connect with mind, body, spirit, and just, bringing that together, that there's something greater than what we feel or what we fear in our toughest moments, and having something that can help us, so, and each of us might have different ones that we find helpful. So again, sharing in the comments or chat, what kinds of self-care, meditation, visualization, or affirmations, those kinds of things. What kinds of things help you, to connect with your power, to connect with the beauty you're wanting to contribute to and create, to navigate the understandable emotions we go through, but come through on the other side, empowered maybe towards positive action. So please do share, and if you're catching this later, the recording, share it in the group and, the comments in our Facebook group, the Empowered Vegans Facebook group. Well, I guess it's time for us to wrap up for today, but thanks for those who join us now and later. Any final words, Mariquita?
Well, just honor all your feelings with compassion and love, and don't ever forget how beautiful you all are and what a big difference you're making on this earth.
Yes.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.